Let's welcome one of our most favorite guests who has not been on for a while, and that is co-show hostess with the mostest, Malka Fleischer. Malka, shalom.
Hi, Isha. It's good to be back.
Thank you very much for joining us, Malka. Malka, last week, not an easy week. Not an easy week.
Rough, ups and downs.
Gosh, and a lot of downs. A lot of what on the face of it would seem like downs. But of course, we know better that the Lord, He's got a vision. Let's talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk and about the stuff that he was fighting, because the stuff that he was fighting was a lot of the stuff that we were fighting. Let's play a few videos. You know, I did a show immediately after the heinous murder, and in that show, I covered a lot of his pro-Israel remarks. But you know what? A lot of other remarks have surfaced or have been kind of brought to the surface. In any case, let's show a few of them. Okay, Malka?
Great.
Here we go.
Trip I ever took was to Israel, and the second greatest trip I ever took was to Israel, and I've been there twice. I'm a huge supporter of the Holy Land, of Judea and Samaria, and up against the terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, and the Palestinian Authority. I go to college campuses, and I've spoke at more college campuses than any Christian conservative in the last couple of years: Stanford, Berkeley, Brown, UCLA, University of Texas, University of Michigan, Michigan State University, you name it, I've probably spoken at major universities or states all across the country, from Montana State to Maine. And I am confronted many times by young Christians that believe that Israel is an oppressive apartheid state that basically should not exist in its current form. And so I'm here to clearly communicate to you that we have to do a much better job of communicating, of conveying, I should say, the geopolitical significance of the state of Israel. The world's a better place because of the state of Israel. We have all three monotheistic religions represented in the Israeli Knesset and the Israeli Supreme Court. Israel actually expresses freedom of religion. I'll never forget when I was driving down to Hebron last year, and you're driving down south from Jerusalem, and there's this sign, and I don't speak Arabic, nor do I speak Hebrew. So I turned to my driver. I said, "What does that sign say?" There was no English translation, and there was a arrow in the middle, and an arrow to the right, arrow to the left, and the arrows to the right and left were red, and the arrow in the middle was black or some other, not a warning color. And so I said, "What does that mean?" They said, "Well, if we turn right, you'll die." What do you mean you'll die? Well, if you turn right, you go into the Palestinian Authority-controlled territories, and as a Christian, a Westerner, or a Jew, they'll kill you. I said, "Well, what kind of ridiculous double standard here? If Arabs come into the Israeli occupied areas, they're given benefits and rights to vote. You go into the Palestinian Authority areas, Palestinian Authority controlled areas, you get your head cut off." That was a really interesting moment.
I just want to kind of start it from the beginning just for a second. Just listen to this quick part that he says in succession.
The greatest trip I ever took was to Israel, and the second greatest trip I ever took was to Israel, and I've been there twice. I'm a huge supporter of the Holy Land, of Judea and Samaria, and up against the terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, and the Palestinian Authority. I go to college camp.
Okay, so there you go. I am for Israel. I'm for the Holy Land. And I think the reason he says I'm for the Holy Land is because the Holy Land is really the aspect that he connected to. And this is something that we keep trying to talk to our leaders about. The reason that he says Holy Land and Judea and Samaria is because he identifies Judea and Samaria as the place of the Bible.
Right.
This is what he connected to. He connected to the biblical aspect. And our beloved state of Israel has really not done enough to promote the idea that, I know this is going to sound crazy, that Israel is the Holy Land.
Right. I mean, Israel feels very comfortable. We've said this before on the show, right? But Israel feels very comfortable portraying itself as the startup nation, as a post-Holocaust nation, as a scrappy outpost for democracy in the Middle East that will use its like incredibly innovative military technology to zap bad guys in the region. And all those things are true. And they are all amazing things about Israel and are all things that I'm really proud of Israel. But the real question is, why are we doing all that here? Why are we here? How did we get to this place on earth? And the reason is because this is the Jewish homeland. And how did this become the Jewish homeland? It became the Jewish homeland because the God of Israel told the children of Israel that this is the place that he wants us to be and invest in and grow and develop and satellite out to the world from. And Charlie understood that very well. A person who was very versed in the Bible, in our Torah, and he believed. You know what I mean? He was obviously a man with a very high intellect, but in a certain sense, he was not a complicated person. He was a person who knew who he was, knew what he believed in, knew the difference between right and wrong, and refused to be confused. And wanted to take that lack of confusion in a world that is trying to smoke and mirrors you all the time and like out rhetoric you all the time. He was trying to take that energy out to students who have been so warped and brainwashed by a modernity which wants to distort and confuse everything. That was like his life's mission, and yeah, and that's what he died for.
But back to specific issue of Israel. Right. He really connected with the idea. He kept going back, and even in some of his last interviews where he had some issues with the state of Israel, he never ever backtracked or never ever questioned the issue of the Holy Land, of the land of the Bible. This is where the Bible happened. And when he had this great line that I think we should make a shirt out of, Malka, which is, he said, when you go to the land of Israel, it demystifies or demythologizes the Bible. It makes the Bible real. And he really felt that very strongly. He didn't, by the way, agree with everything that the state of Israel, and he would separate those things. He said, well, the state of Israel. I also don't
agree with everything
exactly,
the state of Israel does.
Exactly.
We're not here to worship the state of Israel. The state of Israel is not an infallible deity. It is a group of Jews getting together, trying to make the thing that they think God wants them to make, and make it as successfully as possible. And we're here to try to develop it as best as we can. Criticizing Israel is not being anti-Israel, but sometimes it is, right? Sometimes the criticism of Israel gets into a place where it's no longer criticism, it's just anti-Israelness. But so Charlie would sometimes have critiques of what was going on in Israel, or whether the United States should involve itself in Israeli military actions in the region and things like that. But there was never a question that he was emphatically in favor of the Jewish state on the land of Israel.
That's right. And the promotion of Israel as the land of the Bible. And I have to tell you that working with the Israeli government, I'm sensing more and more that they're starting to get it, that what talks to people of the Bible is that Israel is the land of the Bible. So when you bring Bible people, God bless Tel Aviv, that beloved and wonderful city that I feel close to and will only blessing and love to go to, et cetera, et cetera. But that is not the heart of what people that love the Bible feel about the land of Israel. It's about the Bible and the stories of the Bible. And that's why, by the way, I had the great honor and pleasure of bringing Charlie Kirk to Hebron. More correct, hosting him in Hebron. That's more correct, right. Because my good friend Matan Peleg is the one who brought him to the land of Israel and to Judea and Samaria. And I had the pleasure of hosting him at the Tomb of the Patriarchs, the Matriarchs. That picture of him at the tomb there, went viral, and I'm very proud of that. But there are some people who are like, "Wait a minute, he had issues with Israel." Whoop-de-doo.
Good morning. Yeah, we all have some issues with Israel.
Watch the show here. Watch the show. Watch my stuff about Netanyahu. Plenty of critiques. Woo! What do you think? That being pro-Israel means being lobotomized and going in line with with every policy of the state of Israel? Come on. I don't usually talk about this, but we're a democracy. We have different viewpoints about how Israel policy should be. And I'm certainly not in agreement all the time with our state and Netanyahu, et cetera. And I think Charlie had absolutely, good points. I didn't agree with everything. Okay. But the point is, one thing I definitely agree with is his interest and love of the Bible. Now, his interest and love of the Bible, Malka, also brought him to another consciousness, which is very important, which I think in many ways is one of the great issues of our time, which is the issue of technology and the need to power down, step off, digitalize for a Sabbath. And Charlie Kirk, his upcoming book, will be posthumously published, will be, sad to say, will be about the Shabbat. And the name of the book is Stop in the Name of God. As in, like, stop in the name of God instead of love. Okay. And here is Charlie talking about the issue of Shabbat, the Sabbath, for the Jewish Sabbath as taken upon a non-Jew like Charlie Kirk.
And I'll say one other, I'm going to challenge you guys on one thing. And Allie, I don't know if you know this. Last July, I was traveled all across the country last year. I was getting really stressed and just worn down, typical stuff that happens on the road. And a pastor friend of mine said, Charlie, you got to take a Sabbath. And I was like, oh, we're not bound by that commandment, whatever. And he really convicted me. So every Friday night, I take a Jewish Sabbath, turn off my phone, Friday night to Saturday night. The world cannot reach me, and I get nothing from the world. It will bless you infinitely. Now, I'm not saying you're bound by the law as a Christian. I'm not saying that that's something you have to do. I'm saying it will make your life better. It was important enough that God put it as one of the 10 commandments. And I will say, there's debate in some theological circles that we are bound to it because it predated the law. God rested after creation. So I want you to think about that. So Friday night to Saturday night, no one can reach me. And I wake up, I wake up on Saturday night, I open up my phone, 600 text messages, 900, whatever. But it is the best 24 to 25 hours. And if every young person took a legitimate Sabbath from Friday night to Saturday night, I guarantee you, anxiety would go down, depression would go down, you'd actually spend time with people you care about, meaningful conversations would happen. So I challenge you, if you incorporate that in your life, there's no negative. The only negative would possibly be if you had to contact someone in an emergency. If it's an emergency, then fine, open up your phone. That's a separate conversation. Emergencies don't happen every week, and if they do, you've got other problems, right? So take the Sabbath, take it seriously, and I think you should take a permanent Sabbath from TikTok. But you and I could talk about that at a different time. But I do want to say...
Okay, Malka, that was Charlie talking about Sabbath, and he had such a conviction that he wrote a book that's coming out just about the Sabbath for the nations. And a lot of people this past Shabbat, non-Jews or even Jews who hadn't done it before, took upon themselves a kind of Charlie Shabbat. And maybe in many ways, maybe this message is a resounding one that the world really needs to hear. What do you think about that?
It is fascinating, Isha. As a Jewish person to watch, there's no question that in the non-Jewish world, there's a connection to the Bible, a deep, very loyal dedication to Bible values. But sometimes as a Jewish person, knowing that you've been carrying around this information, this data with you for 2,000 years in the diaspora, it sometimes feels to you like it is your job to purvey the information. But every once in a while steps in someone from the outside and is able to open the eyes of people in such a dramatic way that you really have to be amazed that God has his messengers across the nations and around the world. Charlie Kirk and his Sabbath, notice he calls it the Jewish Sabbath. I think he mentioned it in this video, but I've certainly seen him say it in other videos. He doesn't say I take a Sabbath. He says I take a Jewish Sabbath. When I first heard that he was a Sabbath keeper, I was like, oh, well, Sunday. And you told me, Isha, like, no, Friday night to Saturday night. And the fact that he understood that this was something that would benefit him, and that he additionally understood on top of that it would benefit him, but that he is not obligated to all the various specific nuances that the Jewish people are obligated to. We have a very lengthy series of directions about how to yes and no do Shabbat, and it's very extensive. Whereas he understood that the principle of Shabbat was meant for him, that he could learn from the idea that taking a day of rest, something that has really sustained the Jewish people throughout all of our years. This keeping of the Shabbat has sustained us in a variety of ways, whether it be just on the personal level, like Charlie is talking about, but certainly also on the community level and definitely on the spiritual level. It has sustained us. He understands that this is something that he can glean from. And now I'm looking all over. On Friday, Isha, I was looking all over Twitter, X. I still can't say X. But anyway, I was looking all over X, and I see Jews who are consider themselves secular, who are not Sabbath keepers, who are saying on X, because of Charlie and his dedication to the Sabbath, I'm going to start keeping Shabbat now. Whoa, what a mind blower. To me, this is an incredible merit for him, that he was able to open the eyes. I mean, not to mention the thousands upon thousands of Gentiles who will probably take upon themselves the Sabbath and really just like be so nurtured by it and start to understand what it means to do a digital detox and to sit, with uninterrupted eye contact in front of your family, or to like actually read a book that has pages, or to take a walk outside, or to think an uninterrupted thought. The fact that he was able to make Jewish people reappreciate the heritage that we were given because of his appreciation of it and his like finding it and adopting it into his life, I find that to be like a really mind-blowingly beautiful thing. And I'm so like happy and humbled for him, humbled, amazed. And I think that God works in mysterious ways. And as much as I think that the loss of Charlie Kirk, is a really profound loss, and I think that he could have done so much more and he had so much more to do, I think that God is also incredibly smart. And he knew that this was a person who wanted to serve him in his life, and he's using him to the max. And I think that that's really, really cool.
Okay, Malka, absolutely. The world needs digital detox. Shabbat is something that we need more than ever before. Charlie Kirk was saying to you, it's a godly mandate, but it's also a societal need today. It's more needed than ever before. How funny is it that in this modern time that we live in, we need Shabbat more than ever before? I know that I read Barry Weiss on Twitter says Shabbat cannot come fast enough this week, and I slid into Shabbat this week as though I was sliding into home base. It's like, right. And just made it in. And I was like, thank you. And yeah, I think that one of Charlie Kirk's big legacies is Shabbat. It's right. Really
and his
cool.
book is going to come out. I mean, we haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg yet.
Right.
I only like mourn inside that he won't be there to discuss it out more and to go on.
Yeah, I would have had him on the show, or he would have had me on his show.
I mean, it would have been pretty amazing, but as it is, I think it still will be. And Yishai, I didn't tell you, but as a little gift, I went to Amazon and I pre-ordered that book for you.
Cool, dude. Thank you very much. Very nice of you.
You're welcome. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I will enjoy that. Thank you. That's very cool. That's very cool. Avi A sent a super chat, and we love super chats because it's a great way to hear your voice and support the show. He says, how do you think Charlie Kirk would debate Jimmy Carter, who was also well-versed in the Bible? Jimmy Carter didn't understand the Bible. Jimmy Carter did not understand you're supposed to bless the Jews. Jimmy Carter was the supporter of the jihad, Nazi, Molech, Hamas, Amalekites. He was on the wrong side of the Bible. He didn't get it. He was a replacement theology guy. He wanted to shrink Israel. He was not a blesser of Israel. He simply misunderstood the Bible and had some very incorrect lessons. Charlie Kirk would have made mincemeat out of him, and he was using the Bible against itself. He saw the Bible. He saw Israel in the dark light, and not as Israel, the nation that has challenges but overcomes, in order to be the apple of God's eye. Okay, Malka, one more video from Charlie, but this one is different.
Okay.
This one is about, we talked about the Shabbat. We talked about his standing with Israel and rejecting the Palestinian Authority, but this was a different issue that we are warning about all the time here on our channel and our discussions, and that is the growing emergency situation of the jihadist takeover and its complicity with progressivism, the Red-Green Alliance, the Progressive Jihad Alliance, and Charlie was all over that. He was all over that, and he saw these twin evils working seemingly at different intellectual spectrums, and yet actually having the same goal, which is to undermine civilization, to undermine freedom, to sow discord, and to undermine heritage, the Bible, and the biblical heritage, what some people call, a term that I don't like so much, Judeo-Christian values, but definitely biblical values. Here's Charlie Kirk warning the United States of those dangers.
Battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep. Okay, so on this show and from Israel, I cannot promote Christianity, and I don't believe that that is the ultimate way to serve God. And I think that the Torah is the more authentic version of things. That's just the bottom line from this end. But I do agree very much about the twin threats, which I think are twin threats throughout the world. There are twin threats to any identity today. And that twin threat is throughout Europe and throughout the United States. It's to Israel as well. And it's Marxism, wokeism, together with jihadism. That part I can't disagree on, okay? The solution, he spoke it in his identity. And I'll speak it in my identity, which is be a strong Israel, be a strong Jewish country, push back on wokeism, which undermines biblical values, push back on Islamism, which is a supremacist religion which tries to erase Israel and Judaism. It tries to erase Christianity as well. But I got to speak it from my perspective. And by the way, he would agree with me. He'd say, I'm American, you're Israeli, you got to speak it in your way. But we agree on the diagnosis and the prognosis. Okay, the diagnosis is these two forces want to destroy Israel, and the prognosis is that we have to. This disease is going to come to us. We got to fight it, and we got to strengthen it through identity and through also realizing what these guys are doing. And if it's to fight them with the law, if it's to make things illegal, if to be like, yeah, do not have the mosque and the muezzin blare out at 5 a.m. in New York City or in Israel, because that's their way of taking over. We can't let that happen. So what do you think, Malka, about those twin challenges?
I think that what, Charlie Kirk was a staunch Christian. He was a really Christian. And he made he'd minced no words about it. I think what he's really saying here, though, is that he wants, what he sees as the American way of life is a place where Bible-believing people can feel comfortable and safe, and that they don't have to feel like they have to make themselves small, like they have to have some kind of guilt, that they have to minimize their own faith so that other faiths can maximize themselves and then suddenly take over. And this is a phenomenon which is now happening around the world. The United Kingdom is seeing it, France is seeing it, Norway is seeing it, Ireland is seeing it. It's not like an Islamic search for rights and equality in a place that is difficult to live in. It has become a certain kind of takeover, a certain kind of overbearing. flags flying everywhere, calls to prayer everywhere, Arabic everywhere. And people are nervous that their own cultural integrity can't stand up to what they see as like a certain intentional onslaught. It's not like just a lot of people have come in and now we have to make sure our culture is also good. It's like an intentional, some kind of an effort is happening to reduce their culture and raise up this other culture until their own home culture, their original indigenous culture, goes extinct.
Malka, there's a
threat.
comment that I want to get to, and that's not the one. That's not the one. Here it is. Sock2 writes, Yisha, are you comparing jihadist Muslims to gays and lesbians? No. What I'm saying is I wasn't comparing them. I was saying that wokeism works together with wokeism, Marxism works together with jihadism. And the way it works is like this. It's a two-step. The two-step is like this. First, wokeism undermines family, history, security. Okay? It like in America, it tells you your history is bad, you're always evil, you're always colonialist, you're always apartheid, and all these like words that they use about you. Then it undermines family by introducing all these alternative systems of human relationships and equates them. And then it also erases your security forces, your army, weakens your army. It's against your strength. It defunds the police, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, it makes people into a total mush. It makes them into total selfishness because they're not part of anything. They're not part of history. They're not part of family. And they're not part of mutual defense. So people are left to themselves. Now, when people are completely detached from the societal missions, they become jello. People, when they have no identity, I forgot, it undermines their religion. How could I forget? It undermines their religion. So undermines religion, and undermines family, undermines security, and undermines history. These are these are the bulwarks of identity. When you undermine those things, then people become jello. They become mush. They're nothing. And then comes the jihad and clamps right down, and everybody's thankful that the jihad has come to their rescue to give them purpose and identity. Now I understand what I have to do. Now I understand my domestic role. Now I understand my what I can conquest that I need to do. And now I have some kind of mission in life, which is a human being needs it so much. So therefore, Marxism, wokeism works together with jihadism. This sentence, the way the Sock2 writes it, is tricky because it makes it look like, well, jihadism, which is very much the opposite of the gay LGBT thing, these are two opposite things, seems like, wait a minute, these don't make sense together. But in fact, it works together to undermine the society. It's actually a 1-2 step. First, it's wokeism, progressivism, then it's jihadism. That's the way that works. I hope that I made that clear. And of course, there's a lot more to discuss on that. And Charlie Kirk was definitely a guy who pushed that. So Malka, we talked about the love of traveling to Israel and feeling that this is the land of the Bible, and the understanding that Palestinian Authority is a despicable terrorist gang. Charlie understood that. The idea of the Sabbath as an important pillar in relationship with God and an antidote to much of the digitalization and addiction that we have today. And number 3, the danger of the union between woke Marxism and jihadism. And I think that Charlie Kirk was on all those, and we saw eye to eye on many of those things, and that's why he's celebrated right now as a hero in Israel. That doesn't mean that he doesn't think that Israel's perfect. And it doesn't mean that I agree with him and he agrees with me on every issue. But I think that it was a great merit to know him, to have him around. And on the whole, he was a tremendous force for good, for dialogue, and for holding up values. And he was taken down for that.
Right. I actually think he really does represent a certain strong, level-headed, proud, faith-based America. And I think that this attack on him was an attack on that kind of America. And I hope it will serve as a wake-up call to America. I love America. I'm a very proud Israeli. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to live. I believe in this country. But I know how our story ends. So do you guys watching the show, right? If you're a Bible reader, you know we may go up, we may go down, we may go a little bit sideways, but we know how the story ends. We don't know how the story of America ends. And so it is really up to the people of America to be vigilant in shaping and crafting their country. Charlie Cook was all about that. He was an America first person who understood that his country was special, and that if he wanted to keep it special, he had to dedicate himself to the moral and intellectual clarity of the young people. And he did that with incredible passion. It's a real pity that he is lost. But with God's help, more people will rise up to help that beautiful country to continue to be strong and clear and go in the right direction. I think it's good for the world. We really want to bless you, America. Our condolences, really, to all of America, frankly, especially to the Kirk family, but to all of America on this horrible loss. But may this only serve as the Sabbath there's a big awakening to the Sabbath now as a result of his passing or his murder. Let's just be honest. May other great values also come to the forefront, become part of the public discussion, and may we see good days ahead.
Malka Fleischer, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I want you to know that people miss you, and so you have to make every effort. I know you've been busy bringing the kids back to school, etc., but we need you back in the show always. People need you, and people need that Malka energy throughout the world. So thank you very much, Malka, and let's keep fighting. Let's start this week strong together, and let's rededicate ourselves to also making Sabbath special. If the nations are going to take upon themselves Sabbath, then we got to make our Sabbath even holier and even more meaningful. In the comment section, Yo puts up the link of Charlie's book, Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life. Who came up with that name, Stop in the Name of God? That is just good. That is just good stuff. Malka Fleischer, God bless you so much, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Have a great week.
All right. God bless you, Malka. Thank you for helping us start the week right. We want to bless the soul and memory of Charlie Kirk. Thank you for your amazing life, and thank you for your light, and thank you for reminding us about the Sabbath. You got to listen to Charlie. Start keeping that Sabbath. Start taking a break. And I even allow you to take a break from this show on the Sabbath, take a digital detox, and turn your life towards God on the Sabbath. 3 pieces of advice to get closer to Israel and Jerusalem and the holiness. 1, face Jerusalem. 2, drink wine from the land of Israel or something else, even if it's potato chip from the land of Israel. And finally, start keeping that Sabbath. That's my advice to you. And of course, my other advice is stay connected to us. We're doing our best to broadcast so much from the good land, from the land of Israel. Lots of love, lots of blessings from the land of blessings. May Hashem be with you wherever you are, with good energy from the land of good energy, wherever you are. Shalom, shalom, shalom. And don't forget to be part of it. And don't forget to laugh. The bad guys hate it when you laugh. We got to defeat them with our laughter, our holy laughter. Yalla, everybody. It's time to wrap it up. And shalom.